ธิ Recording in progress.
Amazu Bloss. Honorable Bloss.
Chairman, my chairman. Welcome back, Stan. We haven't seen you in a
back. You must be welcomed back. We have not seen you in a while now.
It's so meeting.
We even thought you joined Montana's party. We even thought you joined Montana's party. These things are possible.
It's not possible, Chair.
Valerie, you'll alert when we are ready to start.
Noted, Chair.
Okay, you'll alert us.
Yes, I will. Chair, you can start the meeting, and the meeting corrects.
Thanks very much, Valerie. Hey, just a minute. Take a good posture. Colleagues, good morning. Let me take this opportunity to greet all of you who joined on this platform for this portfolio committee meeting, approved to be on this virtual platform on this day of the 20th of May 2025, just 30 minutes after the hour 9. We're expected, colleagues, to receive a briefing by the department on the third quarter performance for the financial year 24-25. We also to consider written submission on the merchant shipping bill and the briefing by parliamentary legal advisor on the NEDLAC issues. If you remember, we had got a legal advice on this particular matter, and we'll consider and adopt minutes of previous proceedings that we deferred last week. But for the purpose of this meeting, let me welcome the department. I well informed that the department today will be led by the Honorable the Deputy Minister Hlengwa, and the acting DDG. Acting DG who are probably on the platform, but I will afford them an opportunity to introduce who is on the platform. But I want to take this moment to greet all honorable members present here today, to greet the department and all our technical and support staff, including the parliamentary liaison officers of both the minister and the deputy minister, and all the staff of the ministry who are present. With this word, welcome. Great discussions. If I can hand over to the honorable DM to introduce, or maybe before that, if Valerie, you can deal with apologies first.
Chair, apologies from the department side were received from the minister who's out of the country. And then from the committee side, the only apology we had was from Ms. Noluchungu, who, due to organizational commitments. There were no other apologies.
Thank you very much. On that note, let's note and welcome the apology of the minister and that of Ms. Noluchungu. And on the same vein, allow and request the Honorable Deputy Minister to introduce and lead the department. Honorable DM.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, and to the honorable members, the departmental team, DOT, and to all colleagues on the platform. Chairperson, yes, I would like to reiterate the apology of the Minister, who is currently out of the country on official business. And secondly, indicate that the acting DG substantively is also out of the country with the Minister on that official visit abroad. Chair, the team is here this morning, and the CFO is also present with the rest of the EXCO of the department, and we are presenting substantively, as you've correctly pointed out, on the third quarter. Chair, I would want to indicate that I would request to be excused at 11 to attend to the select committee of the NCOP on another departmental presentation. The two meetings are running concurrently. And so once we conclude this side, I would humbly request to be excused to rush to that NCOP meeting. Here we're going to present on as you've said, across the spectrum of the department and the 7 programs, and indicate that the third quarter performance overview speaks to 77% performance level. The team will take us through administration did not meet a target of 1, integrated transport planning 1, rail transport 2, road transport 3, civil aviation 3, and maritime transport 1, and public transport 1. And so out of the total number of quarter 3 targets of 52, we achieved 40, and 12 were not achieved, giving us a 77% performance. And the team will take us through all the issues, and then we will be able to then field the questions of the honorable members. May I request the DOT team to introduce themselves, and then for the ADG and this CFO to take us through the presentation, which I believe Chairperson did reach yourselves on time. Once again, thank you very much, and over to the departmental team through you, Chairperson.
No, thanks, DM. We will release you at that particular time so that you can fulfill the constitutional obligation of dealing with the National Council of Provinces. I strongly believe, at least by that time, if we prime ourselves well, would have done with the business of engaging with you. We'll just be left with our own business. No, but nonetheless, if we are not done, we can then release you because you would have laid the premise.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So on that note, you can allow your colleagues to come in.
Chair, apologies. Before you proceed, Mr. Montana's hand was up earlier.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning, colleagues. Good morning, Deputy Minister and colleagues. Chair, I'm not sure if the apology of my colleague Honorable Kubeka was raised. I think he's attending a meeting of SCOPA.
Okay, greetings to you, Honorable Seppo Montano.
Thank you, Chair.
And then I think, recorded to note, I think is also another obligation that the Honorable Kubeka is busy with in the interest of the nation. So note it down for record. Thanks, Honorable Montano. Thanks, Valerie. In that order, the department can proceed.
Yes, greetings, honorable members, and greetings to the Deputy Minister and all colleagues on the platform. We are coming here to present a Q3 report. And through you, Chairperson, I'm going to ask Ms. Klengiwe Ngwenya to do the first part. And when we come to the expenditure part, I will take over from there. Thank you, Chair.
As it please.
Good morning to the Honorable Chairperson and the Honorable committee members, as well as our Honorable Deputy Minister, the Acting DG, and all colleagues present on the platform. As indicated, I will then take the committee through how the department performed in Q3. In terms of performance, as the Deputy Minister indicated, we're looking at Q3 performance covering the period from the 1st of October to the 31st of December. I will not go into the detail of the percentages as the Deputy Minister had indicated, but overall we had 52 targets for Q3, and we achieved 40 of those targets and missed 12 of those targets, giving us 77%. Next slide. This is just the pie chart indicating performance where it clearly indicates the 77% achieved targets against the 23% targets that we have missed. The next slide is just a bar graph, a comparative bar graph indicating how each of our programs performed. As you can see on the screen, our least performing branch was rail transport, and our best performing program or branch was public transport at 89%. Next slide. In terms of trend, in terms of performance, and we depict this for the purposes of course, monitoring how, as a department, each of our programs are faring, such that we ensure that comes the end of the financial year, we meet all of our targets. As you can see, in terms of the trends, some of our programs or branches have increased in performance from quarter to quarter, while others have declined in performance. I will not go into Q1. I'll just do the comparison for Q2 and Q3. So in program 1, as you can see, there was an improvement from 77% to 83%. ITP, which is our integrated transport planning branch or program, there was a significant improvement, which the minister was happy to see, from 30% to 83%. In terms of rail transport, unfortunately, we saw a decline there from 80% to 50% in Q3. However, that improved in Q4. I must give committee members their assurance. In terms of road transport, there was an increase again, which is fantastic to see, from 70% to 75%. Civil aviation, unfortunately, declined from 67, although marginal, to 63%. Maritime increased from 83% to 86%, and for public transport, a slight decline from 90% to 89%. Overall, we did improve in terms of performance from quarter to quarter. Next slide. I will then get into highlights of some of our achievements, but also then delve into areas of non-achievement, and then the corrective measures and the reasons why we failed to perform. In terms of highlights for Program 1, we managed to develop the expected draft strat plan for 23 to 2030 period as required by TPME. Similarly, the draft APP for 25-26 was also developed and submitted in time. In fact, we then managed to finalize those and have those approved by the end of the financial year. Next slide. The department, in terms of the organizational structure, we are in the process of reviewing our structure. We did get the request, the needed approval from the minister to start the process. In fact, we've actually gone forward to submit a request to DPSA for us to then continue with the process of restructuring the department such that we have a structure that is fit for purpose and it's fit for the direction that the department is taking into account the 7th administration, as well as obviously the NDP 2030 targets. In terms of the unqualified audit opinion, we're happy to also indicate that we developed the action plans to address the audit findings that were raised by the AG in the previous audit, and we have since then proceeded to implement those action plans, and it's bearing fruit. And then lastly, in terms of then the investigations of reported fraud, allegations of fraud and corruption, all cases that were reported in the last quarter were investigated within the 30 days of reporting. Next slide. When you get onto the areas of non-achievement, we coming to Program 1, we had targeted to revise the shareholder compacts for 24-25, as well as the MOI, which is the Memorandum of Incorporation, particularly taking into account the entities that were coming to the Department of Transport, that being Transnet and SAA. The department managed to revise the shareholders, which were then submitted to the minister for approval and sign-off. We also started the process of reviewing the MOIs. However, those were not submitted to the minister because we were still busy with the process. The process is a bit lengthy. However, we are still on track to get those finalized. Next slide. Moving over to Program 2, which is the Integrated Transport Plan. I'm going to just delve into just some of these, and that speaks to, in terms of the Just Transition Plan for the transport sector, we did manage to develop the draft as targeted, and we're in a process of actually engaging stakeholders on the draft that we have developed. For the Green Transport Strategy, the review process, that too we managed to move as planned in terms of data collection and analysis. That was done. And then lastly, talking to the issue around the implementation for carbon emission transition plans, we did manage to collect data in terms of the electric vehicles, smart charging infrastructure in the country. So we have gathered quite good data around the infrastructure that we have in the country. Next slide. In terms of the Transport Economic Regulator, we are targeted to put together a panel of experts that will do the shortlisting. To be appointed by the minister, we managed to do that. And then we also developed the draft regulations for the Transport Economic Regulator Act. In terms of areas of non-achievement, so those are some of the targets that we missed. We had targeted to submit nominations to the Portfolio Committee for the council. However, we were not able to proceed with that process due to the fact that there are amendments, as the committee would know, that need to be made on the ERT Act, and so that's still unfolding. What we did manage to do was to then compile a list of nominees that will then be considered by the portfolio committee should we complete the amendment process of the Act. Next slide. Moving over to rail transport. Rail transport missed 2 of their targets. So just some of the highlights. We had targeted a prioritization for the PSP projects, to do a matrix for that we have done as a department. Similarly, in terms of the National Rail Master Plan, we had targeted to develop a national network statement, which was done and was actually published in Q4. Next slide. In terms of areas of non-achievement, we missed our targets for the National Rail Bill. We had targeted to submit the bill to DPME for the socioeconomic impact assessment process. And this was unfortunately due to the fact that we are still going through the vetting process with our legal services unit. However, we had in Q3 submitted the bill and the memorandum of objects to legal services for vetting. Next slide. The second target that we had challenges with was the National Devolution Strategy. We had targeted to develop a status quo and stakeholder report. However, we were not able to do stakeholder consultations on the draft National Devolution Strategy, as the strategy is still being developed in the department. Moving over to road transport, some of the highlights in terms of achievements. We are in the process of reviewing the road safety strategy. We are targeted to do preliminary consultations with critical stakeholders internally. We were able to do those consultations. In fact, as the Deputy Minister indicated today, we are continuing with that process of reviewing the strategy this week. In terms of the implementation of the strategy being monitored, we did manage to develop the monitoring reports, which we do on a quarterly basis, just to track how we are faring in terms of the strategy. Is it giving us the intended results, particularly talking to safety and the interventions that are proposed in that strategy? So we are doing ongoing monitoring in terms of the implementation of that strategy. In terms of the amendment bills for CBRTA and RAF, we managed to consider and incorporate the comments that we received when the bills were presented to our EXCO for inputs, and we are on track with that process. Similarly, with the amendment bill for RT, RTMC, and SANRAL, that too was presented internally, and the comments received from our EXCO have since then been incorporated on those bills, and they have since been finalized. When it comes to the inspections on active DLTCs and VTSs, we did do the expected compliance inspections to ensure that service delivery is not compromised and the quality of service is on point. So we're happy to report that that is ongoing on a quarterly basis. Similarly, with the national road infrastructure projects, which also includes our provincial projects, we have been doing oversight inspections on those, and also monitoring and verifying the jobs that are reported to be jobs created coming off from those projects. When you move over to areas of non-achievement, For road transport only missed 3 out of the 12 targets. The 3 targets speaks to, firstly, the validity period of the driver's license cards. We had targeted to submit the extension of the validity period proposal to X and Quota for consideration. However, we were not able to do that due to the fact that we're still busy with the process of a cost-benefit analysis, which will then inform the value and the realistic possibility of what is doable, depending on the period that it's deemed viable. So the cost-benefit analysis exercise is quite critical in this process. Next slide. So the second target that was missed was speaking to the RUBS bill, which is then the Road Accident Benefit Scheme bill, where we had targeted to do stakeholder consultation. Unfortunately, we did not do the stakeholder consultation due to the fact that we need to develop or establish a task team which will then solely focus on deliberating on what are the implications of this RUBS bill, and of course make recommendations on directives that make sense or indicate possible risks. Next slide. The third target that was missed here was in relation to the monitoring of the ATO rollout. We had targeted to develop a report talking to the extent of the implementation of the rollout. This was not done due to the fact that there was a delay in finalizing the appointment of the ASTO Appeals Tribunal and the signing of the proclamation. Moving over to civil aviation, some of the highlights with civil aviation, as indicated, they had 8 targets and they missed 3. Talking to some of the highlights, we're happy to report that we managed to revise the draft National Airports Development Plan as targeted, but also we then did the analysis of the safety recommendations that came through from the accident and incident investigations report, just to identify common trends and outliers that then warrant more stringent intervention. But overall, we are diligently monitoring safety in the aviation space. We also then, in terms of then the Independent Aircraft Accidents and Incidents Investigation Authority, we had targeted to submit the list of shortlisted candidates to the security services for vetting. And I'm happy to report that we did do that. Next slide. In terms of the AMSA bill, we have considered the comments that we received from the public and stakeholders on the draft AMSA bill that we have developed. And then similarly, we have developed the short-term measures to mitigate the risks that have been identified in relation to the aviation licenses situation in aviation. Coming to areas of non-achievement, aviation missed 3 of their targets. The first one is the comprehensive civil aviation policy. We had targeted that we will take these policies through the ESET cluster as well as the JCPS cluster. However, this was not done, and this is primarily due to the knock-on delays from the previous quarter. The branch was still busy finalizing the amendments or the revisions as per the recommendation of the minister. I am happy to report that the policy has since been approved for public comments. Next slide. We also missed the target talking to an action plan to deal with the backlog in terms of the aviation licenses. And this was due to the fact that the Domestic Air Services Council was yet to be consulted to endorse the assessment report, which will then inform how do we then go about addressing the aviation licenses backlog issue. Next slide. Moving over to maritime, that too did very well. We had 7 targets and missed only 1. In terms of the highlights, the maritime digitalization policy, as well as the draft maritime energy policy, both of those were developed and stakeholder consultations were conducted as targeted. When we move over to Operation Pakisa, implementation, so the branch reported that 65% of the initiatives were completed for Operation Pakisa as targeted. In terms of the implementation of the action plan to address the IMSAS audit findings, we are targeted to develop a status report to indicate the extent at which the sector is implementing the action plans. That status report was developed. Moving over to the areas of non-achievement. The first target that the only target that Maritime missed was in relation to the National Ports Amendment Bill. We had targeted that we will then incorporate comments received from the State Law Advisor. This was not done as the branch is still busy with consultations with National Treasury and Transnet. Next slide. Moving over to the last program, public transport did very well. They only missed 1 of their targets in this quarter. In terms of highlights for areas of achievement, in terms of cities being assisted in planning and operating IPTNs and the monitoring thereof, we managed to develop the report specifically indicating the bilateral engagements that were held with 6 cities in relation to how those cities are implementing IPTNs and some of the challenges that they might be encountering. And this includes Cape Town, eThekwini, Mangaung, Sunduzi, Nelson Mandela, and Rustenburg. In terms of the Transport Appeals Tribunal Amendment Bill, that too, because of where it was in the process, we were tracking progress on the bill. We managed to develop a status report as targeted, and I'm happy to report that the bill has since been signed by the President. In terms of other highlights, in the interest of time, Chair, I will then move very quickly. I'll talk to lastly, number 7, the scrapping of old taxi vehicles. I'm happy to report that we managed to scrap all submitted and qualifying old taxi vehicles in quarter 3. And then lastly, in terms of the distribution of bicycles, we managed to distribute 2,279 bicycles to Eastern Cape, Northwestern, Free State, and Gauteng, as indicated on screen. I'm happy to report that overall, we did manage to distribute the targeted 8,000 bicycles for the year. In terms of areas of non-achievement, there was only 1 target that we failed to meet, and that's speaking to the public transport subsidy policy. We had targeted that this policy would be submitted to the clusters for processing, for approval to submit to Cabinet. During the period under review, the policy was submitted to NEDLAC for further consultations. However, we have not been able to then proceed due to the dependency on NEDLAC. NEDLAC is still going to their own internal processes, so we are waiting for NEDLAC to close their process so that we can proceed with this policy. And that is where my part ends. CFO, over to you.
Thank you. Sarah, if you can go to slide 45, where I'm giving the summary that the department was able to spend 71% of their allocation in terms of the cash flow, and this amounted to about 62.4 billion, and the underspending in the third quarter is 776 million. I will give the details of the underspending as we go forward. In terms of economic classification of compensation of employees, the expenditure outcome in the third quarter is a little bit below the estimate by 1 million. However, with the pressure on the departmental establishment requires careful attention as not to be in line with the allocated budget. So we have almost reached the compensation ceiling. In the next slide is about the goods and services. There's also an underspending on the goods and services. Next slide, please. And this is basically because of the delayed payments to the appointed service providers. And in the main, the other underspending is a project that are paid per milestone. If the milestone is not achieved, then the payment is not effected. And lastly, is in terms of transfers and subsidies. Here there is an underspending, and basically is because of the changing of the payment schedule of transfers to the municipalities, like the Mangaung municipality for the PTNG, and also there was a delayed payment for Road Traffic Infringement Agency for the administration of the road traffic offences rollout. And also the other underspending is on the Rural Route Asset Management Grant for municipalities that were not in compliance with the condition of the grant. If you go to the next slide, it will give us the spending per program. There you can see Chairperson and Honorable Chair and Member Quota. There is an overspending of 20 million. And in program 2, there's an overspending of 5.8 million. But just to caution that is in terms of the cash flow for that particular month, and the higher spending on the administration program of 20.6 million is for payments of financial assets, which are as follows. It's mainly invoices from the previous financial year that were paid in the current financial year, especially for accommodation, communication campaign, and travel and subsistence. And then on the payment of assets, financial asset was a debt written off on theft and losses. When the remedial action that we have taken as a department management, funds of about 10.5 million were shifted to program 1 in order to cater for the communication campaign and the bulk media buying for the road safety campaigns that were implemented in the third quarter. In ITP, we also see an overspending of 5.8 million, and is basically the same reason that the invoices of the previous financial year were only paid in the current financial year, and also other expenses like the traveling, accommodation, and payments towards the BE Council for previous year were delayed and only paid in the current financial year. The program has put measures in place with regards to traveling, where only traveling that is currently being incurred for for project-related achievement. That's how we address that one. And in rail transport, you can see, Chair, that basically the reason for the underspending in the rail transport is basically the public sector participation of the PSP unit. It has been concluded. Report from the service provider, the invoice was therefore only paid in strategy, whereby the receipt of the third quarter, and only when it was, and the remedial action that management project is expected to increase in the coming reporting months as the project are paid per milestone, Chair. In the roads transport, we have got an underspending of 117 million on goods and services as well as on transfers. On goods and services is basically because of project as the evaluation of the National Road Safety Strategy, as it has been put on hold, as well as other projects will be paid as per their milestones. And secondly, on transfers and subsidies, this is a non-payment for ARTIA for the ARTO rollout, and basically is ARTIA was supposed to submit an invoice which we must comply with the conditions of the transfer for the ARTO rollout, which they did in quarter 4, and the transfer was effected in quarter 4. And then in terms of civil aviation, next slide, there's an underspending of 10 million, and basically the underspending is civil aviation policy at the CPS clusters, and that been deferred into the coming financial year due to cost containment measures. And finally, the national appointment of the service provider. So those 3 projects contribute. This is the following project: the National Ports Amendment Bill, as well as additional consultation with National Treasury and Trustnet were still required to be undertaken. And also the World Maritime Day was put on hold. And finally, the Marine Court inquiries are convened. And then finally, the SAMSA small vessel branch was finalizing the memorandum of understanding. The underspending in the public transport. Next slide. Yes, thank you. We have got an underspending there of 653 million, and then is across the goods and services. Here, the capacity grant monitoring as one of the bid was returned back after probity process to ensure that whatever is awarded can stand the test of time. And as a result, it delayed the appointment and obviously the issuing of invoices for work that could have been done. Secondly, the other contributing factor is the underspending on the PTNG, that is Public Transport Network Grant, as the payment schedule and was changed in terms of the timing of the transfers, and as well as the withholding of a fund for the Mangaung municipality due to non-compliance with the set condition. And also included in the underspending is an amount of 300 million that was shifted for environment to finance the once-off taxi gratuity and the extent of the relief fund. In terms of the remedial action, the program anticipate to underspend on the funds earmarked in the capacity for grant monitoring under goods and services and savings utilized under the commitment within the department. If we go to the next slide, where we are indicating the expenditure per economic classification. Thank you. If you look at that schedule, Honorable Chair and members, you can see that the department is underspending in that quarter on compensation of employees by 1 million, which tells you the pressure we had with the compensation of employees in relation to that economic classification, meaning that only 1 million was remaining, and it can only as a result of few vacancies that existed at that point in time. On goods and services, we underspending by 24 million. On transfers and subsidies as indicated by 751, and in total the underspending is 7. Give the details in my summary, looking at only 1 million. Slide 53. Next slide, please. Thank you. In this slide, Chair, if you look at the goods and services, we have listed all the under goods and services, all the projects that were underspending as per the explanation I just given. Then if you go to the next slide, which is slide 54, it will give the details of the underspending on transfers and subsidies and the remedial action that we have implemented as a department, as well as the payment for capital asset and the payment for financial assets. Transfers and subsidies, including transfers to our public entities, as you can see, all of them are on track, except, as I indicated, the PTNG indicated there in slide 55. Next slide, please. As indicated, you can see that the only area of delayed payment or transfers is under public transport network grant, as indicated with the reason that I've indicated. The next slide will indicate the transfers in terms of other transfers for the department, and the only one that is delayed or which is spending lesser is the taxi scraping, and we have explained the reason that it is demand driven. Then the next slide, Chair, we are, if you can go to slide 58, where we are indicating the details of the conditional grant. There you can see the allocation is 17 billion, and we have already transferred 14.6 billion, and the provincial departments up to the end of the third quarter were able to spend 12.8 billion. Next slide will show the other transfers, which is public transport operation grant. There the total allocation for the year is 7.7 billion, and the department have already transferred 6.4 billion, and the provinces were able to spend 5.6 billion by the end of the third quarter. Then we go to the next, the last transfer, which is the PTNG. Again, here the total allocation is 7.1 billion, and we have already transferred 2.8 billion, and the municipalities were able to spend 3.3 billion of that allocation, leaving a budget available of 4.2 billion. Thank you, Chair. Back to you.
Are we done?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Yes, that is the report of the department chair in terms of quarter 3, but I think the honorable members will also note that some items which were flagged for quarter 3 have subsequently been implemented, but we will field questions, Chairperson, at your direction. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, GM, and thanks, colleagues, for a comprehensive presentation and being precise in terms of going to the points. At this moment, I'm going to allow honorable members to come in and raise questions. I'll be the last to ask some few questions. I don't see hands here. If I don't see your hand and you feel like you need to come in, just indicate by opening your mic and say, Honorable Montana, I want to say something, or Honorable Malamaza, or Plus Maduna.
Hands are up, Chair. Hands are up. Check again.
Oh, yeah. I see Honorable Ghana. I see Honorable Montana. I see Blose. Honorable Blose.
Hand is. I can't
Honorable
find the hand
Malamaza.
here.
You don't have a hand.
Yes, it's up now. I found it.
Okay. Let's start there with Honorable Montana. Honorable Kompana, I've seen your hand also.
Chair, thanks very much. And thanks very much to once again to the Deputy Minister and the colleagues from the Department of Transport. Chair, I just want to raise a couple of issues. Thanks for a detailed presentation. Let me start first by raising a general issue before I go into each detail of the questions that I want to raise. The first is, we need to be, and it's a point that I consistently make because I sit in the other portfolio committee on planning, monitoring, and evaluation. And we have quite a lot of reports dealing with process rather than evaluating impacts. And in our particular case, the delivery of transport services, I see quite a lot of submitted, approved, and we have less on the impact. That we get a sense that the expenditure report or the expenditure undertaken by the department relates to the delivery of particular services. And that also tells us about the detail that the extent of the detail that we're given. Some of the stuff I find quite contradictory. In fact, they go against the reports that were, or the reasons that were presented in previous expenditure report. You recall, Chair, that our second quarter report still has to be processed by Parliament. And I'd raised some of my own reservations with some of the things that were being said. And even the portfolio committee raised questions. But you see, for example, the persistence in some of the issues that were not addressed. Chair, I want to let me start first with public transport, and I'll go back because I think it's one issue that, despite what the report says, I mean, the last time I checked, if we take out goods and services, the underspending there was about 531 million rands, and it seems we are given different reasons, and I think the CFO, Ntate Matlala, the statement that is being made that the taxi recap scraping process is a demand driven thing, it can't be correct. I think that is something that we are now being told about, when in fact all taxis and safe vehicles have to be removed from the road, whether based on their age profile, on their condition. This notion that is demand driven, I think, is something that as a department we need to review. That is one issue. Secondly, we're told that in the previous report. In fact, this was stated in the fourth quarter of the last financial year, where we're told that that the department is also reviewing the issue about the scrapping allowance and all of those things. And I see that in the last report, and this report is no longer featuring in the explanation. But I think the notion that you know this is a demand-driven thing, rather than very targeted interventions by the department, is something that we need to review. And I don't think it is correct. It's something that we should accept it as a committee, because someone who's driving an old CI in Johannesburg will not submit that taxi, because when he calculates the cost of buying a Quantum, for example, he realizes that he'll be operating at the loss. So the issue about reviewing the scrapping allowance, but also still targeting vehicles that are not suitable for the road, is something that must be driven by the Department of Transport or the relevant transport authorities at the local level. But it's now being left to chance, and that is why we see that number keep on going up. So that is one issue that I wanted to raise very strongly. The second issue is regard to the public transport grant. I see, for example, that the allocation. The allocations, there's more, and I know we are not dealing with allocations now, but the huge gap between Cape Town as a city, and when you look, for example, at Johannesburg, Tshwane, eThekwini, is quite extraordinary. We are not told in the report about the interventions. What we are told is that in the last report, or in the notes that were given, was that there was non-compliance and some of it was held back. Now it's coming to the payment system or the timing. So I think that we keep on having these explanations changing, but the key thing is the expenditure on that particular grant, which started initially as a public transport infrastructure grant to become public transport infrastructure and systems grant. But the key thing is to make sure that we intervene. I mean, I ask myself whether, in fact, we have a public transport infrastructure, public transport strategy that we're implementing. When I look at the detail, I don't see details, for example, on the cities that we are assisting in terms of the public transport, integrated public transport networks. I see that we're mentioning the cities, but what kind of work, how we, when I go throughout the cities, I don't see any form of public transport integration taking place. But I see that we are monitoring the strategy on on the integrated public transport networks with rail as its backbone. I think was approved by cabinet, if I recall well, in 2006. But it seems, listening to the report, that we are really at the beginning. That monitoring is not giving us a sense of information, the kind of information that will tell us or give the committee a sense as to where we are in terms of driving public transport. In fact, when I look at all the cities that we're allocating these huge monies, the biggest being Cape Town, the My City and the taxi, for example, industry, they run parallel to each other. So there's no creation of integrated public transport networks, as it were.
As you summarize, Honorable Montana, as you summarize.
Okay, so I think let me raise some of the issues quickly then to accommodate to be. I think on page 26, I think, Chair, with regard to the reps, I see that sometimes we're given bills that needs to be undertaken, and then later we discuss the implications I mean, it raises issues about planning. So I'm referring to the REPS bill on page 26. I want to pass to page 29 on civil aviation. I think that it will help us, particularly under 2, when we say implementation of the aviation safety strategy monitor. I think that the kind of recommendations that are made by the safety bodies on investigation reports, it will help if we are given a sense of the issues of what comes out of those reports. Because for me, looking at it, it doesn't tell me, it doesn't enable me to assess whether the state of aviation safety in the countries is improving. I've got the last 2, Chair, that I wanted to raise quickly. I think that the National Ports Amendment Bill, Chair, I think that for me, we're busy with the merchant shipping bill. And I think that there's a huge alignment between these two bills. And I think that it's very important that we get that quite going so that we can align, because the merchant shipping bill, it may be a separate bill, but it also gives effect to some of the what the National Ports bill says, and vice versa. Finally, Chair, I think it's on the devolution strategy. I recall that when the Deputy Minister gave us a briefing last year, he gave us an assurance that we'll have, but I see that much work still needs to be done. We are far from coming closer to the devolution strategy being tabled before us. Thank you, Chair. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much, Honorable Montana. Ghana, Honorable Ghana.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning, leaders and the department. Thanks very much for the report. So, Chair, I want to make maybe at most will be 3 points. I don't want to speak for long. The first point will speak to ourselves and the report that we receive, especially when we consider quarterly reports, accepting that when this we are finishing the year and we need to start afresh. So the big chunk of the money that the department has, it then gets to be transferred to agencies. And what this quarterly report does not speak to, it's generally what is the report from the agencies. And I'm not asking for quarterly reports for each and every agency, but there is a unit in the department that looks at the various agencies of the department. But their performance or lack thereof, how they are spending, and all those issues, it's not captured in the way that I believe it should be, in order to give a holistic view to say, as a department in this quarter, across everything that we have, the conditional grants we send to provinces, the grants we send to municipalities, the money that we have given to agencies, this is how things are. And I hope when we then look and we start discussing the 2025-2026 budget and APPs, this is one of the issues that we need to get right. We can no longer continue to say this is how things have always been done. Things cannot continue to be done in the way that it currently is being done. The second point, which is it's also linked to what Honorable Montana has raised around the public transport network grant. So, other than the Mangaung and eThekwini, so one of the interesting points that are raised here, it's around the saving. So it is said that there will be a saving made as a result of not transferring the money to eThekwini. So we know that we are at the end of the year has ended. It might very well, the department knows in terms of where did the money that was earmarked to be transferred to eThekwini been diverted to. And I hope the department will not say that we must wait for the annual report because the year has ended. We're no longer in that financial year. The year has ended. Just to understand the monies that were earmarked for eThekwini and Mangaung, where did they get diverted to? Link to that, Chair. As I said, I don't have a lot of questions. The first one is the most critical one. It's around the performance of the grant itself. It's very concerning if one looks at this, unless if the department will say that no, this grant is then aligned to the municipal financial year, which starts at the beginning of July, and at all times you'll have a situation that by the end of our financial year, there's not the grant hasn't been fully spent by the municipalities. To then say, all right, how do we then handle this so that you don't have an instance that some of the monies we think that they will be spent in the first quarter of the financial year in the municipality, but end up not being spent? How do we then handle that particular issue? And finally, Chair, I think when we get to the fourth quarter and the annual report, the rail transport section needs to be, there needs to be a bit of meat. Currently, what is being reported here, it's around legislation, and not so much in terms of whether the trains, the corridors are covered, which ones the state of all the major corridors and the percentages that they are at, because we should obsess, Chair, by provision of reliable public transport. That's what we should obsess about. Equally, we should obsess about the performance of the big entities, Sanral, Transnet, PRASA, SAA, as the key. Every meeting, we ought to be discussing these big entities so that we can turn the economic situation around. I will then rest here, Chair, and allow Honorable Maduna to take off. I know he's going to land somewhere, but let me allow him to take off. Thanks very much.
Honorable Matuna, you are invited by Honorable Kana to fly the flight from where you left it.
No, thanks, Chair. I will land, Honorable Kana. No, good morning, Chair. Good morning to colleagues, honorable members, colleagues, DM. And thank you very much for the presentation. I think also I'll be very short, Chair. I think one would want to just first express my concern
Don't
around
pronounce, just be short.
Okay, Chair. On the issue of taxi around the taxi recapitalization program, Chair, I think the explanation that we are getting in terms of why is it not implemented is not a good reason. And I think perhaps the committee would have spoken about this, that perhaps we need to relook at the entire program in order for us to ensure that we impact the lives of our people and we solve the challenges that we are currently facing, which is the challenge of high cost of living in South Africa. So I think it's very important that we need to relook at that program. However, my questions will be on slide 20 of the presentation. Shortly, with regards to the national devolution strategy, one, I just want to did stakeholder engagement not take place under the period under review? One. Two, also, do you have any time frames of on the finalization of this devolution strategy? I think, Chair, those are just the two questions that I wanted to raise. Thank you.
Very much, Honorable Maduna. Honorable Van Staden.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just a short.
Sorry, Chair, my hand, by the way, I thought you had noted me. So I put down my hand because I had you note me. So don't forget me, Chair. Thank
you. You are after Honorable Van Staden, ma'am.
Okay, thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Just a short question. I think looking through my notes of the meeting we had with the department on 27 August, and there it was indicated that for frozen posts in the department were 124, and it was said to this committee that the department will review the structure and function regarding the vacant post of the department. I see now there's not much movement. The list is still 120 vacant posts. My question, however, is, can the department provide us the latest developments on these vacancies in the administration program that had been vacated and had not been filled by the end of the third quarter of 24-25? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Van Staden. If we can learn one or two things from Comrade Honorable Van Staden, it will assist. Honorable Blosser.
No, thanks, Chair. Yeah, greetings to the department, greetings to members. I also just have a few specific questions, Chair, before the Deputy Minister actually leaves us, especially in relation to the RAF Amendment Bill, Chair. So I see the report tells us that some of the inputs were incorporated, giving an impression that the bill is moving forward. That would have been in the third quarter report. But I do understand that the Deputy Minister spoke about something of withdrawing the bill. So I just need clarity of that. If is there something like that whereby the RAF Amendment Bill was withdrawn earlier this year, and then where are we with the amendment bill as it stands? Because we, in our interaction with RAF all the time, they always tell us about these amendments. That's a critical in assisting them to do their work, and some of the clauses there that's outdated, which are in hindrance. So we hear that in the report that it's saying that some of these things have been incorporated and they're moving forward. But I'm also of the view that the Deputy Minister would have, informed RAF of the withdrawal of the bill. So if he can just clarify us on that, so that I know that where are we with that. The extension of the driver's licenses, Chair, from 5 to 8 years. I don't know. I don't think that citing that the delay is through a cost-benefit analysis report is sufficient. Because when was this proposal made and why wasn't the cost-benefit analysis report made at that time? And there's not even an indication as to when is the report on the cost benefits going to be done. Because, and I mean, now, okay, we maybe if we can just get the clarity in terms of where are we now with that? Has that been done now? and how far or what's the time frame in terms of that being implemented, because we can't just say that the reason for this thing, for the extensions not being done, is that it's a cost benefit analysis report which is outstanding. How far are we with that? Also, Chair, thirdly, the transformation in the aviation space is also not an issue which I think is negotiable. Now, the department does have a national aviation transformation agenda or strategy, but we note the constant underspending in this strategy. So what is the department doing to address this? Because in the second quarter, there was underspending in that regard. There's also underspending now within that regard. So what's the plan to address the underspending in that National Aviation Transformation Strategy? Also, Chair, when the CFO was reporting regarding rail, he was having challenges with network. So I didn't get the reasoning between the reasoning behind underspending in rail. So if you can just maybe clarify that, because rail is one of the sections within transport that are really challenged. So I heard also the presentation that said in quarter four that improve in spending in rail or targets in rail or something like that. But what was the reasons now for that underspending within quarter three? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Prosa. If we can have Honorable Kompa.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, I'll start by appreciating the report as presented and also echo the words of appreciation from my colleagues that have spoken before me. Chair, I'll be short, just straight to slide number 4 of the presentation. My question there is there a detailed explanation of the bare minimal results achieved targets by the rail transport when it comes to performance levels? 2, is there a detailed strategy to improve the performance levels of the rail transport and civil aviation? And if yes, please elaborate on the strategy. And lastly, Chair, my worry is the word underspending. It's so many millions on this department, whilst the communities out there are crying for services from the Department of Transport. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kompa. Honorable Mabel.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Sincere apologies for that. Took me a bit of time. You know, when you're a champion, it's difficult to find an unmute button. So
I'm sure don't throw.
But they were being abused, yeah. A cab won 5 weeks ago. We're still speaking about it.
Champions don't draw.
But yeah, I think you must protect me, man. I think look,
You
yeah.
must start by protecting yourself.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think on Program 1, administration, I think we've dealt with this issue before in the portfolio committee where we asked questions to this effect. If I can go back to my notes, I can even find the dates here. They say that the percentage of investigations which were reported or the percentage of investigations of reported allegations of fraud and corruption, 100% of all of reported allegations of fraud and corruption received were investigated within 30 days. Now, that can't be a target that you want to put before the committee and say that we must clap hands that it's been done. What is the outcome of it? Now, if you want to tell me that all the incidents that were reported, you've investigated all of them within 30 days, was there any conclusive outcome? Which was there? If there was, what were the recommendations? Because, for instance, now, to enhance this target, maybe as a 5.1, you can say all the programs where there's been under expenditure or where the department has regressed, where it's red, it's not green, then that should also be an issue which is in the radar of this program as well, where they need to also ascertain as to what happened. There must be people that must take accountability. There must be consequence management, because in its current form, I don't think it assists us. So I think we can enhance it the next time you bring it here. I think on the issue of the tax recap, Chair, I think colleagues have spoken much on it, especially Honorable Montano. But the same thing that we are always complaining about. I think the last time when we raised the issue, there was the issue of the TRP review model and all its associated issues that they were going to deal with. But there was also a proposal before, or a response from the department, where they said that the World Bank is to assist the department with tax recap, and that the scraping allowance might be increased. How far is that World Bank intervention with assistance to the department? And because now going back to the issue that I raised earlier. In the past, they reported on the same program where they said that 97% of the cases now, they said that were resolved, and they made a disclaimer to say that just because we investigated, it doesn't mean that those people were corrupt. It just means that there were allegations of fraud and corruption that were received. So, but now, give us full information. Don't give us half-baked information. What was the outcome, and what have you done about it in terms of consequence management? And then the other issue, Chair, that I just want to check, what is happening within the department? And sincere apologies if maybe I missed this, and but we learn every day. You can assist me with the information. Like, do we as a department have a DG or someone that is acting in that position? Because the last time I checked, and again I do apologize if I missed this, when Advocate Umlawa, I think, left, I don't remember someone being seconded as on an acting position. Or worse, maybe the department might have filled the post completely. Maybe we can be assisted in that regard. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thanks very much, Champion.
Thanks.
Last
Yeah,
set,
thank you.
Honorable Malmacha.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson. Allow me to take this opportunity and greet the DM, the team, honorable members on the platform, the viewers at home. Chair, I think we must make it very clear that we exist to benefit the people or the citizens as this committee and the department itself. It can be accepted that we are here, we get a report, as I welcome it, that has got so much underspending. You know, there's a lot of work that really need to be done outside there. What are the measures, things that cause this underspending? Is it because we don't have capable people to deal with those challenges to resolve, so to ensure that the money that has been planned to go and improve service at that particular junction, it is spent accordingly? rather to be underspent. Because that alone, Chair, it tells you that even the performance is not up to scratch, to an extent that it translates to say, the people that we are saving are not getting the services. Therefore, obligation that bind all of us that we are here to give quality service to the masses is now abandoned. So we are not happy with the underspending. That must be noted. Many honorables have touched the issue of the investigations. The issue is how many have been found guilty? How many have been sent to prison? Because until we do this thing, people will never know that it is very wrong to commit such acts. How many have been suspended? We want to see them in the street so they regret and they become example of others who are still in the system. Of lastly, to make sure that they are fired. Because the issue will come and report to you. We are not here to get the statistics of the crime that has been committed in the department. That's all. We are here for actions. Chair, to be specific on slide 16 of the presentation on a rail transport, when can we expect the national bill, the national rail bill to be submitted to the DPME for sales processes? Because these are the things that can assist. The more we delay them, the more will come and have these unfinished stories. Because the more the story tells being in that quarter come to this quarter, it goes to the other quarter. It's unfinished. Chair, thank you so much for the opportunity you gave me. Thank you.
Thanks, colleagues. I think you have made life easier. You've asked valuable questions that will enable us to get proper responses as part of accounting from the department. Honorable DM, I just have few. I know you are about to leave now. Let me just be very quick. You refer, Honorable DM and the team about RAF amendment. I think colleagues touched on it. Where are we? Because when I go through your new strategy, you speak about RAPs and then this issue around the amendment of the RAF bill. If you could clarify that as to where are we, and I think it's Honorable Maduna or Honorable Blosser, one of Honorable Blosser who touched on that. If you could come clear on that. When are we filling the vacancies of all these DDGs that are acting? How far are we with the process, especially in terms of we now don't have a DG, we have a lot of acting DDGs. How far are we? In terms of the Civil Aviation Amendment Act, you are expected to nominate or put individuals on Aviation Safety Investigation Board. How far are you with that particular process? If you could answer that. Yeah, and then, I think if you could answer that will be fine. You can respond if you have something
No,
to
thank you.
respond on.
Thank you very much.
And hand over as you exit.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I want to thank the colleagues for the very detailed questions. Let me start with the easier ones so that we can dispense with those. Chairperson, it is correct that the DG of the department tendered his resignation as at the end of February. The position has been advertised, and currently the DDG responsible for public transport, DDG Matabata, is currently acting as the DG of the department. Secondly, on the issue of the filling of vacancies, the DDG of roads resigned as at the end of March. That position has been advertised and CVs received, as is the case, rather applications, as is the case as well with the position of the DG. The position of the DDG for integrated transport arose because the DDG then resigned to take up a position within the ecosystem of the department in one of our entities, and the DDG for maritime is acting in that position. And then the DDG for corporate services, it was a vacancy that has been in the system for a while. We have conducted and concluded interviews, and the process is now handed over to DPSA to take forward. Therefore, in that regard, on the DG post, applications have been received. DDG roads applications have been received, and on civil aviation, the process will have to be kick-started again because of an unsuccessful process previously on the filling of that vacancy. So we have got the acting DDG for aviation currently now, Mayor Elizabeth Mpier, and she's also on the virtual platform. So on the issue of vacancies is that at the level of the DDGs. Secondly, on the issue of vacancies generally within the department, it has been the minister's directive that funded posts must actually be advertised and processed. And we can, Chairperson, maybe I should have started here to indicate that we were obviously reporting on the third quarter, and it would maybe not have been proper for us to cloud issues on activities that are outside the quarter. So maybe, Chair, we can, through your office and the DG's office and the ministry, find a refined model of reporting to indicate that whilst a matter may ordinarily have been a target or planned for a particular quarter not having been achieved, but to report to it then parallel, because what would then happen is that we will probably report on the matter when we do the next reporting. So I'm begging your indulgence, Chair, noting how members are indicating a level of unhappiness about the reporting in certain instances, but we had opted to report on the basis of what would have been the APP and what we were supposed to actually have done in that quarter. So we can refine the reporting framework. So in that regard, we can submit to the committee as per the directive given to corporate on the and HR on how we should actually be proceeding with the filling of the vacancies as and where they've arisen. Secondly, Chairperson, on the issue of the ref bill versus...
DM, on that,
Yes.
that DM, I think on the reporting, I think we'll find a way of aligning it. It's fine. I noted your comments.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. Secondly, on the issue of the ref bill versus the reps bill, I have a Chairperson informed ref of the decision we've taken to pull the ref amendment bill and replace it with the reps bill. Ref has been advised that they will have the first opportunity to present or make submissions on that bill. And this is, amongst others, Chair, issues we can speak to moving forward. But the main thrust is that the ref ecosystem does need reforms, it does need changes, and it has been our considered view and position that the reps bill is the best way to do that. Of course, we will have to update certain elements of the strategic direction that REF is taking, because their planning was on the basis that the REF amendment bill would be how we are proceeding. So after careful consideration about the multitude of challenges within REF, it has been a decision that we will introduce the reps bill. It will go through all the processes, and we will come and table it in Parliament as and when that time arises. Thirdly, Chair, the issue of the tax recapitalization again has been raised. Members will recall that in the last meeting on this matter, the minister indicated that one, we having analyzed the taxi ecosystem, and I think Honorable Montana points to one element of this, that it is elementary that if I have paid off a taxi, I may not want to recycle debt again and go back and take out another financing or another loan to purchase a new vehicle. It is precisely why we have been speaking about de-risking and reformulating the tax recapitalization fund to deal with the specific problem of the interest rates which are associated with the taxes, which then create a shortfall within the monthly revenue generation of a taxi operator. Therefore, there is a fundamental risk involved for the operators, and we are in the process of consulting. I can indicate that we have met with the taxi industry on this matter and on other matters related to peace, security, and stability, as we know of the challenges of violence that have prevailed in Gauteng. So it is part of a broader engagement and interaction, including but not limited to the assistance that has been correctly pointed out around DBSA. So that there is a review of the taxi recap to make sure that the fund is used in a manner that is to the benefit of the industry. And we can, again, Chair, maybe provide, and as we will, when we come to present the budget of the department, deal with that matter. Chair, it is, of course, again, part of the request I would make that the reporting is constrained as we have it here, in that 98% of the budget of the department is transfers to entities and provinces. And so the entities report to Parliament, the entities have their own APPs and so on, and they are expected to report to the committee, as far as I'm concerned, around their own performances as well with the accounting authorities. If there is a need to revamp our reporting format to include that, we will take the guidance from the portfolio committee and structure it correctly, noting, of course, that we are dealing with a department with 14 entities. We would then have to get the guidance of the committee on how that reporting will take place with ourselves and the entities. Chair, on the issue of the devolution, the devolution policy obviously will have to go to cabinet, and after that it can be engaged with. The DDG for rail is here and will also respond to the issues around the rail matters, including the key questions on underspending that have been actually raised. But it is a process that will have to undergo a cabinet from our side. Once that memo reaches the minister, having concluded on the directives that he had given about some of the elements within that, we will be in a position to bring it here. Parallel to that, what we have successfully done as well, Chairperson, is that the comprehensive civil aviation policy has gone through the cabinet process. It has been approved and will be published for public comment, so that the key areas that have been raised, and Chair, you asked the question around transformation. Substantively, the policy seeks to also address the issue of transformation. It seeks to deal with the issue of access. It seeks to deal, amongst others, with the challenges and the bottlenecks around funding for access and the stringent requirements that are in place. It deals with co-terminalization, and so on and so forth. So it's a very comprehensive strategy, and the same policy rather, and the same will apply on rail. But we have taken that civil aviation policy to cabinet and has been approved for public comment. Chairperson, the meeting I'm going into now, as I was indicating with the NCOP, is around the integrated public transport network and the issues that have been raised around eThekwini and Mangaung. I paid a visit to Mangaung. The minister paid a visit to eThekwini. And Chair, where there are issues of non-compliance, obviously we cannot spend, because this committee will be the first one to say to us we are spending irregularly and we are spending outside the established compliance protocols. There remains a substantive number of challenges in eThekwini and in Mangaung. And what I can maybe, Chair, request is that the comprehensive report that we'll be presenting to the NCOP, at an opportune moment, we can come and brief the portfolio committee on the same, so that we singayikhi phezulu today, because it is a very broad and complex portfolio on its own, and requires a dedicated engagement. The question around Cape Town has been raised. Just a few weeks ago, Cape Town had written to us around additional requests for funds, and it was our considered view that the request had not gone, it was rather not structured in a compliant manner, and we have sent it back, and they will have to follow the due processes. So the issues of compliance, Chairperson, are applicable even in areas where it may be deemed that they are doing well, as and when the processes or the next stages are applicable for them actually should come forward. So it is not a selective application. The compliance remains a requirement across the eco system. Chair, the team is here, but what I can indicate, Chairperson, is that we obviously will be coming to Parliament to present the budget. There will also be, Chairperson, fairly, I think, an appreciation that the quarter in which we are reporting on currently now is a quarter which was just shortly after the advent of the seventh administration. And so there was, in large part, a need for a recalibration and a re-strategizing on the basis of the medium-term development plan, which is the key priorities of the seventh administration, and that in part may have interrupted what ordinarily may have been APPs presented to Parliament prior to the advent of the seventh administration. And we are undergoing a strategic review. We have reviewed the annual performance plans, so that it can actually be consistent with what are the new priorities. So I'm confident that in the next reporting cycle, we may be in a position to report more broadly and more pointedly about some of the key issues. But this quarter, in one way or the other, coincides with the change of administration, and therefore how things may have been done previously obviously may not find expression in the new strategic direction that we seek to point out. On the consequence management, Chair, the team will again report, but I think we can bring a comprehensive report on that, on terms of all the cases and where they are and what were the actual findings, so that members can be in a position to interrogate that further. So, Chair, I would want to humbly request that maybe I leave it there. And I'm confident that the team present, the DDGs, are all on the line, except for the DDG for acting DDG for public transport, who is actually appearing before the NCOP, and they will then be able to take all the questions around rail, civil aviation, and maritime. And the ODG, the Office of the Director General, is also present. But I hope I have been able to touch on quite a number of the issues that the colleagues have raised, and greater clarity on the broader overarching issues that colleagues have raised will actually be covered in the budget and in the budget speech on the 2nd of July. Chairperson, thank you very much for your indulgence.
Thank you very much, Dion, and for looking at the question. If the colleagues can continue to the question.
Chairperson, we can't really hear you now. You're speaking like you are inside a big hole.
Can you hear me? I just left Nasrat.
Yeah, it's better now.
I just left Naturena. Can you hear me?
Chair, now we can hear you very well. It shows that you left the champions.
So I was just saying, honorable, the officials can come in and respond the DDGs where the DMS left it.
Chairperson, may I be excused now?
No, of course.
Thank you very much,
Oh,
Chairperson. Much
Minister, and all the
appreciated. I'll
best
be
for
proceeding to the NCOP. Thank you, Chair.
fruitful discussion in SOP. In that order, colleagues, let's wrap it up. Let's summarize quickly and wrap it up this part.
Thank you, Chair. One of the issues on the underspending, I think the DM touched on it, which is in relation, especially he indicated that our allocation, 98% of our budget is to transfers. And Chairperson, all the transfers have got certain minimum condition that the receiving officer must comply with. And it is based on that satisfaction that those particular conditions have been met. And if that condition are met, therefore the department is able to transfer it, because if you transfer without satisfying that those conditions are correct and have been satisfied, then we'll have an issue in terms of the audit process, Chair. And on the filling of vacancies, I can just highlight, Chair, that our budget on compensation of employees was very strained and under stress. As we are sitting now here, the minister requested that we do an exercise to determine exactly how much we need to fill all the vacant posts within the department. And that exercise have been done, and it will result in us during the adjustment budget going to National Treasury and requesting additional funds. So there is a shortfall of almost 70 million to fill all the vacant posts, which every year it will increase by the CPI as determined by National Treasury. Chair. So that is how we are addressing the challenge of filling vacancies. And for now, the minister have given a directive that we must start with the top post, that is the DG, the DDGs, and the top leadership. Then we'll go to the rest of the vacant posts, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks very much, DTT. I've seen the end of DTT Makaipe.
Thanks, Chair, and good morning. Good morning, Chair. I hope you're able to hear me, and good morning to the honorable members. Just to talk to a few issues that have been raised. One, I think just to align to what the DMS said, to then say, we are already obviously towards the end of we have done the fourth quarter, and we are reporting on the third quarter. So we have recovered on some of the targets. But secondly, with the change of the administration, that's why there was amendment in the APP, and some of the things which we have planned prior, they have to be adjusted based on the political direction that we're given. And I think key talks to one, the devolution strategy, which Honorable Montana did mention that it looks like it's taking long. Our intention initially was then you'll do stakeholder consultation, hence we have missed it in the quarter, and then go to a cabinet for approval. But with the direction that we've been given, we had to now take it to cabinet first and to get approval for public consultation before we then deal with that, which is, we were delayed obviously with the draft that was not satisfactory. and then we will be engaging with the minister to get final approval. We are anticipating to take it to cabinet in this financial in the second quarter, and then after that, if we get approval, we'll be able to do then stakeholder consultation on that. Honorable Bloss did mention the issue of underspending in rail. I don't think that was correct. If you look at slide 47, where it talks about percentage in terms of the branches, we are at 82% in terms of that underspend, that our spending for that quarter. What we obviously, the issue there is about the two targets that we have missed in terms of the performance, which is in slide 49, and we have given reasons of saying, obviously, when a document is not meeting those certain standards, obviously, it delays some of the payments. But like I said, we have already recovered on those strategies, and obviously, we therefore reporting that, and that talks to the question by Honorable Nkopani. We then says, do we then have the strategy? Because what we then do as part of reason for deviation, we therefore put in our table to then say, how do we then recover those kind of targets that we have done, which is in rail, and I can attest that in the next quarter when we report, we're already actually in terms of the National Rail Bill, we're able to deal with that. Lastly, with Honorable Malemacha, where he did indicate when are we expecting to submit the bill to DPME for CS. Like I said, because it was the third quarter, we've actually submitted. The reason why that was delayed was because when you submit the bill for CS certification, before you move to the cluster, you must be having a certified bill from the state law advisor, which took longer than expected, but we did receive that certified bill on the 22nd of February 2025. On the 28th of February 2025, we then submitted our bill to DPME, which they have already granted us a certificate on, which we received on the 10th of March. After we got that certificate, we did present the bill to the ESET cluster of DGs on the 27th of March, which has given us an approval to submit the bill to cabinet. Obviously, one department, Treasury, did raise some issues, which we have had engagement, and the bill is now ready to be then submitted to cabinet for approval in terms of public consultation. Those are just questions of clarity from myself, Chair. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Magaipia. Is there anyone who still want to say something on this from you, the TTGs? Colleagues, there are answers. I think colleagues have done their part. Is there anyone of us who want to follow up?
Chair, just before you proceed, Ms. Mpia's hand is raised.
Mr.
Ms. Elizabeth, the department.
Chair, that's the acting DDG Civil Aviation.
Okay, DDG Civil Aviation, come on board. Tell us about aviation.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to you, Chairperson, and the members and the executive of the department. So the question around what are we actually assessing when we talked about the accident and incident investigation. So what we do is we do a trend analysis on the aircraft accident and incident, and we make a comparison to the same period in the previous year. We also assess the causal factors of the accident and incident. And the analysis assists us in checking whether there are any emerging risks in terms of aviation safety that we need to address. And there was also a question on a concern, I think, on aviation, civil aviation performance and risk and rail performance. So on civil aviation, I think the 63% that was presented here today. When the department will be doing a Q4 presentation, I think the members will see that the branch will have turned a corner there, because there will then be some targets that we will have achieved before the that will have achieved in Q4. So and there was also a question on an update around the investigation. What is the update on the Accident and Incident Investigation Authority? So we have concluded with the security service. We have concluded with the vetting. So the candidates have now been submitted to our minister for consideration. And if minister is happy, then it will then be submitted to Parliament for consideration. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Ms. Mse. Colleagues, let me see if there's a hand here. Yeah. Honorable Montana, if you have a follow-up, it must not be a public address here.
Yeah, no, I realize I'm being intimidated by the chair, sir. No, Chair, it's not actually a big input. I just want to suggest, because I think the DDG Aviation in a response is telling us about what they do. My question was about the findings from the relevant authorities, whether it's SACA or whoever, the actual findings themselves. Maybe they can't be included in the report. I think that they can be sent to us separately on a separate note, written, just for us to have a sense, because it will give us a state of aviation safety from those. So I don't doubt the process that they're following. Secondly, Chair, I just want to, I think that indicate that the DM gave us a completely different explanation in respect to the taxi recap process, and it says that we're engaged in a process for de-risking and looking at the fund to alleviate those risks. Now, I think that the department should maybe include that as their explanation, and not the notion about demand driven, because I think it gives a completely different slide. So I think that if we can deal with it in that way, then we'll find a bit of alignment in this in the reporting line that is being given. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Honorable Montana. Colleagues, Honorable Maben.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Yeah, I think that was I think the DM did not really address what I also asked. Remember, in the last meeting, when we asked specific questions about taxi recap, a response came, and I'm going to read it again. It says, World Bank to assist the department with the taxi recap. Now, I asked what was the specific intervention of the World Bank to the department with the recap program, because that's what they said on the 26th of November 2024 when they met with us. So now I am asking to say, what is the progress on it? Because we're in May now. It's the 20th of May now. It's over 6 months ago. So I'm saying, what was the specific intervention? What is the progress thereof that has been done to date? So I think it's a very simple, specific, clear question. And I think perhaps colleagues must do us justice and ask. Because even on the 26th of November, they did speak about taxi recap and the de-risking and the expensive nature of the taxis. I mean, every time when they meet with us, we ask this question. That's the standard response. And unfortunately, colleagues, we take notes. We've got dates. We can always refer back and say, this is what you said. So I think if you're going to come and give us just a response for the sake of it, it's going to be difficult to engage with us going forward, because it doesn't make sense what you are saying. So this is what we're saying. And also, maybe to refresh the memories of colleagues. In the past, you've also spoken about the MTI, the minibus taxi industry, as an entity that you are trying to establish in terms of assisting with the tax recap, and of which 60% of that will be owned by MTI and 40% by the Taxi Development Trust. You said this on the 26th of October. So now, this issue now is coming back again. And like every time you engage with us, you want to shift the goalpost. But all I'm saying is that we've got notes with dates, we refer back to them. So now, these questions need specific answers. We're saying, World Bank, you said this to us then. What is the progress? The other issue, Chair, maybe the department must do a separate report for the committee, is with regards to the a lot of the entities, senior management, their contracts, many of them are expiring. I think the one with RAF is expiring on the 31st of July. Maybe the department should send us a separate report where they say what is the plan around that? Have they started a recruitment process with the board, obviously? And if that is at the board level, what is the interface between the board and the department to make sure by the time we get there, they have started that recruitment process? And if there's an indication that they want to extend, because they've done that to a number of senior management from the entities where they extended their terms. I think one of those would be AXA, where the contract was meant to expire in January, but then it was a cabinet approved that the extension must be until the 30th of June next year, 2026. But want a separate report from the department, like in conjunction with the relevant boards of the entity, so that we can protect and preserve instability or guard against instability at senior management level. Because now there's even uncertainty even at the department level, where even DTGs are acting and everything else. But we accept the explanation that we've been given here, where they elaborately do say that this is what is happening. They are advertising this, and all of that. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Honorable Mabena. Colleagues, I've seen the hands of the kids. I'll recognize you. But I need to indicate, as Honorable Mabena is saying, the answers you provide, we record them. So he is right. The issue of the World Bank does not come from the sky. It's not a pie that we created as a committee on the sky. It's what you said here. And he's right. When I look through my notes now, I can see a trend of shifting responses in as far as this fixed recap is concerned. You may have to put us, take us to confidence what is actually happening there. I think in as far as the BRT is concerned, or the integrated transport, will also be taking interest into that, and there are certain things that we may want to observe in relation to that. So we'll still deal with that particular aspect at a particular time. But for now, I think let's have Mweketsi coming in. Maybe you'll shed a light.
Good morning, Honorable Chair, and morning, honorable members. My name is Mweketsi Sikuro. I'm the Chief Director, Public Transport Regulation in the department, working in the Public Transport branch. I'm attending today on behalf of the Acting DDG, Ms. Kiwi Manana. I thought the Deputy Minister would have covered many of the issues, but I have just realized that there are certain details that the members would want to get so that they can make an informed decision. My response is not to try and indicate who's correct and who's not correct, but the summary that the DM gave to say that the reports will following this meeting on the issues which have been raised will address the details of those matters which have been raised. But let me try to give some details on some of the issues that have been raised, particularly when we reflect to the issue that is being raised around the tax recap in the main, That's the main topic that is being raised here, and there are a number of issues raised there. One of those is with respect to the review of the scrapping allowance. For your information, the department on an annual basis do increase the scrapping allowance through the CPI index, so that it caters for inflation that increases. Obviously, it may not be sufficient, and I'm not saying this is the actual amount that should be the scrapping allowance, but it's the intervention that the department is currently doing on an annual basis, and this starts every 1st April of each year. That's the first intervention that the department is doing with regard to tax recap. The second intervention is that the department is looking at an intervention where there would be a cutoff date for scrapping of taxi vehicles, because what has been noticed is that which is why it led to the fact that we're saying it's demand driven. There are a lot of illegal taxi operators, and there are a lot of taxis which are operated without operating licenses, and therefore they are reluctant to come and scrap their vehicles. So the department is now looking at a cutoff date so that we force indirectly those taxi owners and operators to come and scrap those vehicles. We might have to look at another strategy beyond these two interventions that I have highlighted, to invite more operators and owners to come and scrap their vehicles, because the end goal basically is not to have old and unroadworthy vehicles operating and transporting our passengers. And the second point that I would want to highlight is the fact that there was an issue raised about less spending on public transport grant. There are two problems there that we foresee. One relates to lack of capacity in the cities to basically perform and spend that money, which therefore means we can't then continue to transfer grants to those respective cities. And this point was highlighted by the Deputy Minister as well. And then thirdly, which is raised sharply by Mr. Mabena, as the process update with regard to the engagement with the World Bank. I am confident to inform you that recently the acting DG, which is Mr. Mathabata, did have an engagement with the World Bank on the issues around de-risking themselves, but also the other engagement was held with DPSA as well as Toyota of South Africa to deal with issues of the related to interventions for taxi recap. So the recent meeting was held, I think I was early in April, to deal with that matter. So there has been ongoing engagement. Obviously, there hasn't been finality on the matter because it will continue to be attended to. I think lastly, Chair, from the department, we're looking at also integrating or rationalizing the two public transport grants, the PTOG and the PTNG, into one. And that also, it's dependent on the number of issues. One of those, it's the interest from the cities or municipalities to take over those functions, and the fact that there would be necessary capacity to deal with that. Chair, I thought maybe I should raise those over and above what the Deputy Minister has raised, to give more information to the committee for consideration. I hope I may have helped slightly on some matters of clarity. I thank you, Chair, for the opportunity.
Yeah, sorry to intervene, but let me just say something to you, Chair. No? You see what the Chief Director has just said is exactly what they said on the 26th of October 2024. The issue of the scrapping allowance being increased by CPI over the years. They said that on that. Go back to YouTube and read and listen to that to that recording. So all the questions that I've just asked you now, you have not answered any of them with new information. And that is where we're going to have a collision course with this thing. Because on the 26th of October, we had a meeting specifically for tax recap program, and we took elaborate notes there. Everything that you've just said now was said on that day. Nothing new that you've provided, except for even then, they did say that they plan to meet with Toyota and the banks. And the reason why they wanted to meet with the banks was that many of the banks, like this is what you guys said. You said the majority of the banks no longer finance taxi operators. And exactly everything that you've just repeated now was said on the 26th of October. Where is the new information that we're looking for, that we're asking you now? You are not giving us that. So there's nothing new that we've just said now.
Honorable Mabe.
Chair,
Honorable
thanks.
Mabena. It's fine. I've noted your concern, and I think it's like I would have said, all these questions to colleagues that we're asking, we're not creating them. We're basing them on the basis of the progress of the responses they themselves would have given us. So I think what must happen in this regard is that we'll follow up that we may need that response in as far as tax recap in writing, because the issue of tax recap is a very important issue for us, given the number of users and the role that this industry is playing in the economic livelihood of our people on a daily basis. Therefore, it is going to be very important that we move on the same wavelength in as far as how we deal with the issues of recap. Therefore, what we'll do then, we'll then have that response in writing. So you'll have to give us an update report in as far as that tax recap is concerned in writing. I hope it makes sense. Unless there is any other thing, I'm going to. Are these new hands Montana and Shikot?
Yes, Chair. Yes, Chair. I hear you. Can I propose instead, or in addition, that we have a dedicated session on the tax recap program, outside of the expenditure report, because I think it's far bigger. It's not about the allocation of monies, adjustments. It's in fact about what is the role of the taxi industry in the public transport strategy of the country. And I don't think we're going to deal with it adequately in the context of an expenditure report. So I think that should be preparation for a session where, even if it's virtual, where the department take us through what is the thinking, rather than just paying. That we are being told about a transaction, but not about transforming public transport, with the taxi industry being an integral part thereof. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Honorable Montana. It's fine. What we'll do, I want us to deal with this thing in writing, is because we need to document this progress, because even if we have a virtual, we ask and they give us the same answers they would have given us last year, and we come to another meeting, it's like that. It will be a merry-go-round, and I don't want us to be taking our time on merry-go-rounds. I would first want them to respond adequately in terms of writing, and from there we'll then determine what is the next course of action. If we may need to, you remember we had met sometime last year, as Honorable Mabena said, just to deal with this aspect of taxi recap and precisely its role in dealing with the lives of our people on a daily basis. So it's a matter that close all of us heart. So I'm going to request that we allow them space to respond that in writing, and after doing that, we'll give them 2 weeks to respond that in writing. Should we need further clarity in relation to this, we'll then take it forward. Is that fine, colleagues?
Yeah, we'll leave with that, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Montana. Yeah, so colleagues, in this regard, is it Magapia and colleagues, is there anything that you still want to say there? Should I close it at this point?
No, Chair, we are covered. We will provide the report as you have instructed within the available time period. But from our side, I think we are fine.
Oh, thanks very much. Montana, if that legacy can go down because it's confusing me now. Honorable Montana, yes, thanks. So, colleagues, I think in as far as the quarter report, the third quarter report is concerned, let's leave it at this point, and then we'll get those particular further clarities that we need. And if we may pick up something that we may want to still follow up on, we'll then be able to do that. But then we should thank the department at this point for their responses and for their availability to come. We understand the competing interests where the minister and the deputy minister had to juggle around their responsibilities, but it's fine for now. I think if it pleases, we can then go to the next item. I'm not sure. I don't think the next item will require the department to be here. Boundary, is that so?
Chair, it will assist if the department stays following the comments from NEDLAC on the merchant shipping bill.
Okay, we may then they can remain. Then we process it quickly. We are not doing well in terms of time, colleagues, because I know other colleagues may have to run to other engagements by 12. So I would want to plead, because this is just a brief for the person who's going to brief us. I think to be as quickly as possible, so that we can then be able to move forward. I know Pumalelo, you are the one who's Pumalelo going to be taking us.
Chair,
Yes,
before
Who's starting? Who's going to start first? Is it Alma or is it?
No, Chair, it's me. I will just give members a quick update on where the process is in terms of the second round of comment on the bill, and then Ms. Ngema will proceed.
Thank you very much. Do likewise.
Chair, I will be quick. The committee published the bill for second round of input, of which the closing date was the 25th of April. The comments were received from Agbus, High Seas Shipping, International Forwarding Services, the South African Association of Freight Forwarders, Exporters Western Cape, as well as a late submission that was received on Friday from an individual, Mr. Mahiwa. All those comments, Chair, were sent to members with the summaries of the comments as well as the actual submissions. So the next step forward, Chair, that we will need direction of is to confirm the date of the 3rd of June for another round of hearings. In addition to that, Chair, members receive the legal opinion as discussed on the 1st of April in the meeting, as well as a letter from NEDLAC on the bill. And that has all been circulated to members. Thank you, Chair.
Greetings, members and Honorable Chair. I trust I am in order to proceed.
Yeah, you are in order, Ms. Ngema, to proceed.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm going, if I do have the permission, Ms. Valerie, to put up the opinion, or you can put it on your side. In the meantime, Chairperson, I will also try to move as fast as possible. As the committee is aware, we received a request for a legal opinion to assist the committee understand the processing and whether it will be fatal if the processing of the bill merchant shipping goes ahead without it being submitted for consideration to the NEDLAC Council. Chairperson, in that light, I must apologize. We kind of took some time to finalize that opinion, but we intended to make sure that everything is covered and that we look into the previous instances as to how in other bills it was dealt with, as it is not for the first time that such an issue is arising before Parliament. That said, Chairperson, I think quickly, Valerie, are you going to be able to put up for me, or must I? Oh, you've already done it. Thank you so much. Chairperson, so generally that is what I'm indicating. That was the legal question asked of us, whether it will be problematic and fatal to the processing of the merchant shipping bill if it is found and confirmed that it was not referred for consideration to NEDLAC by the Department of Transport. So, Chairperson, in terms of those questions, we've noted in terms of what has transpired that it is not really in dispute that the merchant shipping bill was not referred to the NEDLAC. It is also indicated that through the submissions of the COSATU, as well as the letter that Valerie has spoken to, it was pointed out that indeed the bill was therefore not submitted. But in response, the department did indicate that as they understood, they felt that them having submitted the bill in the previous instances where similar issues were addressed, they thought that that would be sufficient to cover the requirements of Section 5 and Section 8 of the NEDLAC Act. It is also not in dispute, therefore, Chairperson, that Sections 5 and Sections 8 of the NEDLAC Act demands and requires that any department must submit draft policy that relates to social and economic issues, as well as draft legislation related to labor market and labor market policy and labor-related issues. And in this instance, had Section 5 been done, it would then be done through Section 8, that a report comes before Parliament, which comes from NEDLAC via the Minister. So, Chairperson, we are very clear that indeed the bill before the committee falls within the scope of Section 5 of the NEDLAC Act. And that said, Chairperson, it required that significant changes to market policy related to labor, as well as social and economic policy, be considered by the clusters of the NEDLAC. But if that was not the case, then, Chairperson, we are then required to advise the committee what must be, what at this stage where the bill is at, which is the stage where the committee has already started and received briefings and received submissions and extensions done on the committee, what must then be done at this point, and what are the implications in light of everything that has transpired. Chairperson, we are indicating that in fact there is a need for us to make a distinction between the statutory obligations as adumbrated in the NEDLAC Act, as well as the constitutional obligations in respect of the legislative processing of bills. What we want to point out, Chairperson, is that yes, statutorily, the NEDLAC process should have been followed, and the Department of Transport should have sent this bill specifically as a merchant shipping bill that was introduced to Parliament, and that is before this committee. But it is clear that that was not done. And that being the case, then statutory obligations in terms of the NEDLAC Act have not been complied with. But the further problem that arises in respect of that is that the NEDLAC Act does not then give us the consequences as to what should happen in an instance where something like this has been found, and therefore it is not clear as to how we should be saying this is what the committee should do. But that said, Chairperson, the constitutional obligations, as I said, when the Constitution sets out an obligation and a mandate, it does specify in the specific provisions of the Constitution as to what should happen. Therefore, in terms of the Constitution, we are clear, as for an example, if we look at Section 154(2), if legislation or draft legislation that pertains to matters of municipal or local government is not attended to and sent as Section 154(2) requires, we know then definitely there might be a problem in respect of the legislative processing of any such bill. But in this instance, because the NEDLAC Act is silent in terms of the consequences, Chairperson, and we are of the view that then in light of that, and in light of the fact that it is not per se part of a constitutional obligation in terms of legislative processing of bills, we cannot be saying to the committee, because of that, then the matter is flawed and therefore the bill must be sent back to the department and halt the processes of the committee as far as they have gone. Thus, in that instance, Chairperson, looking at the implications and the obligations and the consequences and what then needs to be done, in our view, Chairperson, we are suggesting to the committee that in order for the committee, which partially it has already done in terms of sections 55 of the Constitution, to hold the department accountable in ensuring that it implements legislation of the country accordingly, and in this instance, the lack of following and obliging to what Section 5 of the NEDLAC Act requires. That not being done, and the committee in the previous meeting spoke to it and explained that it is not pleased with the information that is coming before it. We are of the view that in light of that, Chairperson, the committee may make a resolution or decision that so that the processes and there is no wasteful expenditure in terms of what has already occurred on the bill in the processing and processes of Parliament. The committee can decide to refer the bill and request that the Department of Transport sends the bill to NEDLAC, as well as also the committee has received a letter that comes from the council itself requesting the same. So the committee may make an indication that it refers and requests the department to refer the bill back to NEDLAC while it is continuing with its processes. And as soon as NEDLAC is done with their deliberations or whatever processes they need to follow in this regard, then the consideration and submission of NEDLAC will come directly to the committee and not necessarily through Section 8, but they will still have to follow Section 8 processing, that they submit their consideration and report to the minister, and then it is submitted to Parliament. But so that it does not hinder the processing of the bill, once they are done, and if the committee decides to set time limits as to when they can do that, once they are done, then the council can send its submission and consideration directly to the committee, and the committee will incorporate and deliberate on the submission as it will do with all of the other submissions, Chairperson. That is, in summary, Chairperson, and without taking too much of your time, an indication of what our opinion and the content thereof is. I thank you, Chair. I shall pause at that.
Thanks very much. In Spade, we say, I think even the department is here, they would have heard. And the maritime section of the department, is it here? You are here, right?
Yes, Honorable Chair, we are present. Thank you.
You have heard what is expected now in terms of this legal advice?
Very clearly, Chairperson.
Yeah, I think we don't have to deliberate this matter. It's simple and straightforward because it's a legal advice. It's a guide from our legal team. What we'd have to do, Valerie, is to formally write to the department as much as they would have had here to table this through NEDLAC, and we'll continue on our part to do what we are supposed to do. And then when the input come from NEDLAC with the round that we have got from the input we get from the second round, we'll then integrate and move forward so that we don't delay the bill any further. Is that fine, colleagues? You are fine with that, department, right?
Yes, Chair.
Well supported, Chair.
Okay.
Agreed, Chair.
If I'm supported, I see the champion is not supporting. Why not supporting?
In support, Chairperson.
Yeah, I want to hear the voice of a champion there supporting. So we agree. So I think let's end it that way. We will do the write-up in our part. Valdo will sign the letter this afternoon, just to formally inform the department to submit and table at NEDLAC. We will be doing our part on the other side so that we continue with that particular program, as Valdo would have said. Anything, Valdo, from your side?
Not on the bill.
Okay, we are close. We are done with the bill. Next. Thanks a lot. We did exactly within the required minutes of 50 minutes. If there is anything.
Chair, there's still the minutes of 1st of April and the 13th of May, the draft minutes.
We can process that, but when we process that, we can solely release colleagues from the department so that they can go and deal with other businesses. And at this point, I really want to thank you, Team Department of Transport, for having come presented yourself before us on those two issues that we want. We'll write you a letter on the maritime bill and then the merchant shipping bill. And on the part, you need to bring those responses within the next 2 weeks in as far as the tax recapitalization is concerned. Thanks very much. Extend our appreciation to both your minister and your DM. DDGs present here, all of you, thanks very much for your responses. You can exit so that we can finalize the minutes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mutokwa. As they are gone, where are we now? Consideration adoption of draft second term committee program. If you can quickly go through it.
Chair, the draft program has been circulated to members as indicated in the email. The original program of the NA was extended to the 25th of July. So the matters that were in the initially circulated program was then amended into the new updated program to be spread out over the term. So on the 27, members will note there is a briefing by the department on the repeal of the South African Airways Bill on the 27th, as well as the briefing by the department on the implementation of the Public Transport Network grant in the participating cities. This matter would have been dealt with today, but because of the report that's required and quite comprehensive, this is now a standalone item for next week. Then, Chair, as indicated earlier, the proposed date for the public hearings on the merchant shipping bill for those additional written submissions is the 3rd of June. At Parliament, members can indicate whether some of these meetings should be virtual. Then on the 10th of June, still to be confirmed, is the follow-up meeting with trade and industry on the competition matters in the budget airline industry. On the 17th, the committee will proceed with the department and process briefings on their APP's 2025-2026 strategic plan and budget. In the email that was sent previously, the members were informed that the tabling date for those updated strat plans is only the 13th of June, which is the Friday. So we are hopeful to get all the briefing notes done before time. And Chair, if the department is here, we will really request from them to table those documents as they come in to minimize overtime work from our content staff, and also to make sure that members are adequately prepared for the 17th. Then, Chair, on the 24th of June, the committee will proceed with the finalization of the report in terms of observations and recommendations, as well as the adoption, because the budget vote debate of the department is very early on the 2nd of July, and we need to make sure that the report is 80 seat well in advance of that date. Then, Chair, on the 1st, there will be the deliberations on the merchant shipping bill and adoption of reports. Then, Chair, from 8 July 4, then there is the deliberations on the merchant shipping bill. From the 15th, Chair, these meetings were on the original program. Is the meeting with the participating cities on the implementation of the public transport network grant. And Chair, we will report that the committee following next week identifies which cities will be invited to those meetings on the 15th and the 22nd. Then on the 28th of July until 1st of September, Chair, it will be a constituency break in terms of the current NA program. Chair, that is all from our side.
Well, before, this is a revisited program, right?
Yes, Chair, the program originally was going to conclude the end of June, but because of the retabling of the budget, Chair, the NA extended its program until the end of July. So obviously then the committee programs had to be amended in terms of the request from the House Chair. The draft amendment was submitted on the 9th of May. We had only 2 days to respond to the email from House Chair. So Chair, we would need now for members in terms of this program, and obviously comments to see if this program will be adopted as a draft for the term.
No, thanks. I was asking as a reminder to colleagues that the items as they appear is what we obviously would have dealt with, but we would have just extended the dates. Is that so? Well done.
Yes, Chair. All of these
agenda
items were on the program, but
I hope
because
you
we
get
now
what
have more time, it was spread over.
I get where I'm going. I'm trying to say to honorable members, the item would have discussed them before. So we only had to deal with the extension of date given the retabling of the budget. So it may not necessarily be engaged in terms of the items, but yeah, if someone wants to say something.
Chair?
Yes, Maz. Honorable Boss.
I think, Chair, Uval must have an alternative program, because the budget might not be approved again, Chair. We might need to readjust again. So we agree, but there might just be an alternative, Chair, just in case we need to come back and adopt again. Thanks, Chair.
False prophets. False prophets. Honorable Mabena.
No, Chair, the GNU is intact. We're cruising nicely. So Honorable Blossom must rest.
Okay. So for now, we are adopting this program, isn't it? Can I get a mover?
Chair, on behalf of the Nedbank Cup champions, I move.
Yes, yeah.
Chairperson, I stand to second the move.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Honorable Mata. I think the program is adopted, colleagues. Let's move to the next item. I apologize. I'm migrating into a minutes of other engagements now, but we'll be very quick. I think the minutes proceedings. Which meeting was that? Was this one?
Chair, this was the meeting of the 1st of April where the department in that afternoon, responded to all the oral and written submissions on the merchant shipping bill.
Oh,
And it's
yes.
also the meeting, Chair, where the adopted, and this is very important, the Economic Regulation of Transport Amendment Bill that is before the House on.
Okay. In that order, colleagues, you were there, all of you were there. All of you were there. The minutes are taken as read. There's anything. Yeah, the minutes reflects the decision we've taken of referring these matters for legal opinion, and then this is where we are. Is there anything, colleagues, that you want to correct on this set? Something one, something two. If there is nothing to correct, can I get a mover?
I move for the adoption, Chair, of the minutes.
Honorable Kopane moves. Can I get a seconder? Honorable Fighter?
Yeah, no, we second, Chair. We second.
Honorable Blosse, second. Can we get another set? This set of minutes, thanks very much, colleague. This set of minutes is adopted. Next. Which one is this one? Last week?
Yes, Chair, we've got the 13th of May.
Okay.
That was that briefing by the Minister and the RTMC on the Easter Road safety statistics. And we then deferred those two oversight reports. So those are members' so it's just the introduction, the briefing, the questions asked is raised.
Yes.
And then we just indicated that we moved those minutes and reports due to time, Chair.
Okay, that's clear. Yeah, I think you captured the essence. Can we get who's moving?
It's myself, Honorable Mapena.
Honorable Mabena moves. Seconder. Any seconder, colleagues?
They are sleeping on duty, Chair. Abu Maduna is sleeping on duty.
I second, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ngopane. Honorable Ozo, what is Maduna doing?
He's sleeping on duty, Chair. He's sleeping on duty.
You need to wake him up, sleepist. Thanks very much. Honorable members, next item, Valerie.
Chair, that was the final item. For today, the issue about the oversight reports, we will ask you for way forward in the staff meeting because it will take some time to process. And there's not sufficient time. Thank you.
Let's deal it with Edmenko tomorrow and see where we can squeeze it so that we don't drain members. Also, we don't delay it. So I want to really take this moment, colleagues, to thank all of you, but also thank you that you availed yourself for the virtual platform. Sometimes when you have on virtual, people don't participate, but you are all hands-on. And also how critical you have been to the department. You know, sometimes certain things fall within the cracks if we don't follow them up. But the manner in which you followed Mabena and Montana, are these new hands or legacy?
But I didn't want to interrupt earlier. There was a request that I made when I was making my input that the department should send us a report with what are they doing with regards to senior management in the entities that are expiring. I think you've emphasized the report for them to report within to the committee within 2 weeks on the issue of the tax recap, but I didn't quite hear maybe the mention of what I had asked with regards to the expiry date of the entity senior leadership. Thanks.
My apology on that one, my dear brother. I think it will also be captured in the letter. No? Honorable Tsapo of Mamelodi.
Thanks, Chair. On the oversight report, I accept what you've said. I just want to ask the Secretariat that they make sure, Valerie, that I see that you've incorporated some of the comments I've made in red, but some of them I think that the meaning is changed. So if you can do that in line with the consistent with the letter, if it's a changing of grammar, but I see some of them, they're changing the very meaning of what I proposed. So I just want to ask that we reflect exactly what I'm saying in the amendments that I've made to the report. Thank you.
What we can do, Honorable Montana, in that so that we don't lose your meaning, is that you can liaise with Valerie and Advocate Nell on the side and just make them understand what you said, even if they paraphrase or rearrange, but it must not lose your meaning. Is that fine?
No, perfect, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Valerie and Advocate Nell and Dr. Njesi, you'll speak to Honorable Montana on the sideline so that you process that and still highlight them in red so that when we interface, we are able to know what the Honorable Montana would have wanted us to integrate. Is that fine? Colleagues, Valerie, is that fine? Advocate Nell?
Yes, Chair.
You'll take it up with him, ne? Okay. In that regard, is there any other matter outstanding? Because I was at a point where I was thanking all of you and really appreciating the manner in which colleagues, you were hands-on and asking questions, because I was saying some things falls in crack because we ask them, they answer in a particular way and we never follow them up. But the manner in which you handled today, quite inspiring and impressive, as you always do anyway. But it's much appreciated, especially that we're on a virtual platform. I really, really appreciate that. I have not had our doctor today, Dr. Nsinga. He has been very quiet. I hope he's not worried about the threat of also that the budget may not go through. But nonetheless, I hope he's also here. But also to thank Pomelele and the legal team for always being helpful to us. At least one thing I appreciate with your legal input is that you are not far from where we were as honorable members in terms of your advice. So we are still legally wise and legally aligned. And thanks very much for the support. Colleagues, compatriots, friends, countrymen and women, allow me to call it a day. 60 minutes after the hour 12. I've charged you 60 minutes. My sincere apologies. I think we'll improve in future. But thanks very much. Enjoy your other engagements until we meet tomorrow on the other platform. Thanks.
Thank you,
Chairman.
No, thanks, Chair. Remember, Ansini is abused by Mabena. Ansini is a Bagania fan. This Mabena is timing again abusing this old.
Oh. Hey, Chris.
Hi.
My apologies. I'm sorry.
Recording stopped.
Thanks very much, brothers.